Okay, thank you, Tarisha. I'm going to tell you a little bit about the different ways in which people will practice hypnotherapy. Probably the most common and the simplest way for a hypnotherapist to work is with scripts. And the simplest scripts are basically just direct suggestion, one after the other after the other. You will sleep well tonight. You will sleep well every night. When you wake up in the morning, you will feel good and refreshed. Over and over and over again. Pretty simple structure. A more complex structure, the next level, the person might start using language a little differently. You're going to be surprised at how well you're sleeping. There's a technique called endpoint imagery. See yourself going to bed, sleeping through the night comfortably, and getting up refreshed in the morning and going on about your day in an energetic way. So that's see yourself doing that. That's endpoint imagery. The next level would be a technique, something in which there would be some interactions with the person along the order of getting rid of the things that are in the way of good sleep. Fred, we know you've been anxious, and we can take those anxieties, we can put them in that trash can, and then when it's filled up with all of those anxieties, we're going to throw them in the furnace and watch them blow up. Okay, so, and then he would start laying her in, and you will sleep well at night. You might be surprised at how energetic you are through the days ahead. See yourself using the endpoint imagery. Another type of hypnotherapy is regression. Everybody's heard of past life regressions. All regressions don't go to a past life. We take an unpleasant emotion, we have the person sort of write it back in time to the first incident, and then they go through some manipulations of that to release those emotional energies. And I use pretty much all of those things, and I use a lot of stories because it's possible to communicate a tremendous amount inside of a single story. So imagine that you're my client, and I'm going to tell you my story, and then I'll explain some things about it. All right, so one of my clients came to see me for a stop smoking program. You're not here for that. However, his experience does have some pertinence. So he was in control. He told me that he went into business so nobody could tell him what to do. When he was growing up, his father was in the Army, and I said, oh, I bet your dad was having the kids line up at attention and almost saluting, and he goes, yeah, I don't know. And he tells me nobody tells him what to do. His clients could negotiate with him. His employees, well, they don't get to boss him around, and he doesn't take that kind of stuff from the wife and kids at home either. And he tells me that he plans out every cigarette because he doesn't smoke around other people. So he's in the car, he lights up by a certain point, he's finished by the time he gets to work. He has to plan when he's going to be going outside in places where he can smoke outdoors that are not going to be around other people. And I looked at him and says, you do realize that every example that you gave me of being in control of your smoking is an example of how smoking is controlling you. All right. He looked down at the floor, unmoving, unblinking, and he was gone for 45 minutes. He went into a spontaneous hypnotic trance, and he looked up at me at the end of the 45 minutes, and I said, are you going to smoke again? Absolutely not. He was done. And a lot of times during my sessions with clients, they will go into those spontaneous trances. It might be a few seconds, it might be a minute or two. 45 minutes has happened maybe once or twice in 27 years. That's rare. Okay, now, I've said this to you, my client, and here's what happens. After I tell this story, it's common that somebody might go into a few moments in response to something I've said or a question that I've asked them. And they're going through that process of making those changes in their own way. Now, I didn't get the luxury of asking that fellow who was gone for 45 minutes what went on during those 45 minutes. It's his privacy inside of his own mind. He may not consciously know. I don't, and I respect that. And I tell my clients that, and one of the points I make about that to my clients is, A, someone who does this is in control of the process of change that they're making. B, I'm respecting their process and their privacy. I don't need to know. I'm not the person who's controlling the process, which is a concern for a lot of people. As you know, people say, I don't want hypnotherapists to control my mind. Okay, here's a story you can use to tell them, to address that concern if they bring it up when somehow my name and hypnotherapy pop into normal conversation. When I told you about the fella who went into trance for 45 minutes, I demonstrated what he did. I looked down, unmoving, unblinking. Now, what that does is it gives the other person, my client, the message, this is what a trance is like. This is what you may do, the client, as part of your process of making these changes in your own way. And modeling that state, showing them what to do, is part of the communication, and it's a very powerful way to get them to follow along and do that themselves. So a great referral for me would be someone who's at the Rotary Club booking talks for his membership, which they have a talk every week or every meeting, and I can give them information, little bits and pieces from hypnotherapy that they can use in day-to-day conversations and in sales that don't involve a long, complicated process of hypnosis. Just little bits and pieces which they can take and begin using right away. I am Wesley Anderson, Doctor of Clinical Hypnotherapy.